And now we have the mayor of Pasadena in another part of that town that was hit so hard. Let's listen in.
Volunteer fire department, they're out in full force along with our police department. So we're doing everything we can to make sure all our citizens are safe. And again, as far as the animals go, a couple dogs were injured, but we're going to be able to transport them to a different location and get them shelter as soon as possible. We're working on it as we're talking.
Any idea how many animals, and will they all have to be moved out of this facility? If so, where are they going?
70. Matter of fact, our adoption center next door, we have room. We're going to get crates and stuff, and we're going to put them there. Hopefully, we got other agencies helping us get our dogs out, or not just dogs, animals, but we'll make sure that they're safe and they're well taken care of. That's our first priority here at our shelter.
Are there any other injuries reported outside of the animal shelter as far as people, anyone else injured?
Right now we have one injury, and actually it's a neighborhood right across from here. An ambulance came and took somebody to the hospital. It's not life-threatening, but again, any injury is serious.
Other than the animal shelter, what other kind of damage are you seeing in Pasadena, sir?
We drove through the town before we got here, and the chief, both chief, the fire chief and police chief, will be able to be a little more specific on that. We drove from our city hall to here, and we've seen plenty of damage. We've seen buildings that collapsed. We've seen a 18-wheeler on the beltway completely tumped over. So there's lots of damage here in Pasadena.
Mayor, what have you heard about the schools?
We called the school district. Luckily, at this point, no school was hit. There's no injuries or any damage at any school that we know of. So that's a great thing. But still, though, we're still keeping our ears open and anything we can for the school district, we're here for them.
What's your message to the community right now, people in Pasadena who might be watching this?
Stay home, let us do our job, and we'll get the information out to you as soon as possible when it's safe to get out. We're out, all hands are on deck. We've got all the police department, all the fire department, all our public works. We're out doing everything we can. I've been on the phone with CenterPoint. CenterPoint's fixing to do a big substation here in Pasadena to help get the electricity back on, but get some electricity off where it's needed, where there's lines down. So believe me, all hands are on deck. We're doing everything we can for our citizens.
Would either the police or fire chief like to add anything?
I was going to say the biggest thing is...
can you go ahead and get the full name and title?
Yep, Josh Berger, Bruegger, the police chief here in Pasadena. I would say the biggest thing right now is, we're still here to respond, but be judicious in your calls because we're inundated in the dispatch center right now. And the biggest thing is, we get calls, can I go this way, can I go that way? Tune into our social media, we're trying to update it. When I left to come out here, we actually had all of our calls caught up. It's misleading, though, because a lot of our resources are tied up on intersections. We have gas leaks, buildings, power lines, all of those things. And so, I'm really proud of all the first responders. But I'm going to tell you, my 25 years here, this is probably the worst damage that I've seen, just catastrophic. And we've reached out to the Red Cross, and so that's one of the things to try to get some resources to some folks that their houses have collapsed. And I think it's probably a blessing that happened when it did, just because people were at work and weren't at home. Otherwise, I think it'd be a completely different story out here as far as injuries and possibly deaths. So,
you guys are going to have your hands full, though, into the night.
100%, yes. The coming days, we're going to have our hands full. And so we're still here to respond, but again, be judicious when you call. That's all I ask.
Fire chief?
Lanny Armstrong,
Yeah.
L-A-N-N-Y. We're currently busy. We've run approximately 60 calls since 2 o'clock. Most of them related to power lines and building collapses. We've triaged several neighborhoods due to structural collapses. Unbelievably, there hasn't been but one injury that we're aware of, which is absolutely unbelievable considering the amount of damage. It looked like the tornado didn't run a swath. It came up and touched down in several locations because the neighborhoods are kind of spread out where the damage is, but there's a considerable amount of debris. As Chief Bruegger was saying, it's really try to be judicious in your calls. We're running power lines down. People are still calling about power lines, and it's pretty obvious they're down everywhere. Gas leaks, those are immediately dangerous, so we want to respond to those as quickly as we can, especially with buildings that have been compromised. The structural collapses, it's just really difficult to get there and triage those buildings and make sure everybody's out, especially if the neighbors don't know if anybody's home. But we're doing our best to try to get those and eliminate the possibility of having somebody trapped.
Do you have a rough idea about the number of calls you've gotten today?
Yeah, we run about 60 since 2 o'clock.
And is there one or two neighborhoods maybe more hard hit than others?
Yeah, this one across the street suffered some pretty significant damage. There's another neighborhood off Spencer Highway, Bliss Meadows, that's had several houses that have been, taken off the slab. I mean, literally. We've been very, very fortunate that no injuries so far.
And where is that 18-wheeler the mayor was mentioning?
It was on the Beltway
And
overpass,
so at the cross street, roughly?
Vista.
Vista. Okay. Is it still there, or is it
No,
moved?
they picked it up, thankfully, and pretty sure it was wind driven. I mean, it was picked up and turned over. The driver came in as trapped, but thankfully before we got there, he got out.
Were there any problems with high water?
We did have some problems back in this neighborhood, but by and large, the problem really wasn't flooding. It was, wind. I mean, it was damage. We had a little bit of flooding here on Burke. One of the big concerns we had is the power lines are all laid over. There were power lines in the opposing traffic, and people were driving over them. And, that's not a good idea because you don't know they're not de-energized. So we really want to caution people about power lines being in water, unseen, especially with debris everywhere. So just be very, very cautious around the power lines. Gas leaks are another issue. We're seeing a lot of gas leaks. CenterPoint's been really good about responding to these things pretty quickly. So we had a major gas leak here. When we responded to this location, we had a 2-inch line that was blowing. Yeah, so they got here pretty quick. The firefighters isolated the gas, and then CenterPoint was here within 15 minutes.
And turn it on?
Yeah, they pulled the meter, actually. It was right there.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So they did an outstanding job getting here as quick as they did. So.
Thank you. Anything else? Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, Pasadena.